Hi, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching, going through the ES and NQ trade reviews for Monday, January 27th. And it was quite a roller coaster day today, and the openings have actually been fairly wicked events the first half hour. So let's go over some of the ideas and concepts that I shared today in terms of what we were looking at pre-market and then what we got in the day overall. So first of all, let's look at the open. The first thing that I had discussed was that ES had not been trading underneath or actually been trading above Friday's close, and NQ was as well, and that it was important, right, that if we were going to have any kind of upside movement and we were going to get any kind of pattern to the upside, that we held Friday's low and gap fill, right? And I said below there, really that brought the test down to Globex low, and then the test would come at the retest of the overnight low. So I also said that one of the important areas was that NQ needed to also hold Friday's close, and that also substantially the NQ had been leading. NQ is the NASDAQ 100 for those who are a little newer to futures trading. ES is the S&P 500, just to clarify that. And I said NQ had looked weak near the open, and that we really needed to see a push from NQ to new highs, that throughout this entire rally, NQ had been pushing ES, or pulling ES would be more appropriate, and I would be keeping my eyes on it. The other factor that we had was Apple's earnings after the close, and I thought that might bring up a short squeeze, but at some point in the day, and I didn't know where that was going to come. So let's kind of go and cover the open, the sequence out of the gate. So out of the gate, we got to push down, right? Now, you'll ask, what prevented me from trading, and let's just take a quick look here, right? What prevented me from trading this area right here, right? Why did I not get caught up in chop? Well, I require a minimum of a 6-point rotation before I take a trade, right? At least in this particular trading methodology that I'm bringing to the public here. And so I didn't have a trade here. Then I also said in the morning that this 1790 to 1792 area, that I needed a 6-point rotation, and that if we opened at 1788 and we rotated to 1792, that I would have to pass on this zone because the rotation size was not sufficient. Now, in the morning sessions, I did my best to communicate an idea. Sometimes I guess I get it across clearly, sometimes I don't. I did not say that under any circumstances I wouldn't take this zone. I said I needed a proper rotation. As it was, as you can see, we pushed down here to just below 1785. 1785, if I add, and it's actually 1784 and change, I add 6 points, and that pushes me up to 1791. Now, if we didn't quite get 1791, I think we fell a tick shy, or it was right on the ask, but it was close enough for hand grenades, right? It didn't have to be perfect. That was a 6-point push. I was willing to take the risk into this zone with the appropriate size rotation, and this was pretty darn close to 6 points right here. So I did take the trade. I called it out loud. I also took an NQ trade out of the gate. I won't go over the setup there other than to say I had a scalping day trade setup in that area. I called the trade out. It worked perfectly. And there's other NQ trades that set up for me off of ES zones. Again, I go into those more with my coaching clients than I do with the general public. But that's cool. Let's just take kind of focused here on ES. Now, one thing that I noticed is as we pushed up, right, into this resistance zone and the Globex highs, NQ, while it was also pushing up or attempting to push up, we did not actually get anywhere close to touching the overnight highs. And as a matter of fact, it was ES that was pushing up and showed the strength as opposed to NQ. That was a big warning sign for me. Moving on to the next indication, I want to start the timer here if y'all give me just a second, because I just simply don't want to run over, as I so often do in these things. So this gave me a great entry, and I had put my first scale at 2 points down, got that, obviously on that first bar there. I then moved my stop to break even. I covered half the trade, and my objective was to cover lower. And originally, I was going to try and cover Globex lows. Then I had realized later that we had not touched this level yet, and I covered at 1783 and a quarter. That's a nice trade for me. It was about 7 points on the second half of this trade and 2 points on the front half of this trade. That gave me a little bit, once you average those things out, about 3.5 points total on the trade. That's fine, 3.5. I'll take that any day of the week. Some people ran into trouble here in this zone, right? We got a rotation down and it broke. Now, the only indication, and I'm going to go over NQ in a minute, the only indication not to take this trade is that at this point, this is just prior to 9:30 in the morning, and we were already breaking right at this point. We were testing Globex lows and breaking Globex lows as we were coming into this zone. I have no magic formula for knowing when we're going to get a zone bust like this, okay? But I can say this, that the reason for the stop, right, the 2-point stop behind the back of the zone, is to save my bacon if it doesn't work. This is a beautiful rotation really from 1791 all the way down to 1783. That's obviously exceeds the 6-point requirement. This trade works the gross majority of the time. It failed here, and you got to understand, it's no big deal if you're using the appropriate stop, and you know that over a series of trades, the majority of your trades are going to win. I also said very clearly, right, if this zone busted through, I tweeted out that I would take the zone below. There's no question, and I took 1778 long. I put a 2-point scale in for half, and then I moved my stop to the swing low minus 2 ticks. So I still ended up making some money here, not a lot. I got some of it back. I also took a trade off of NQ that I actually did quite nicely on, again, from this same location. Again, I called that trade out in real time. Part of the advantage of having a trade plan, right, where you're taking trade after trade, is that if you're taking this trade, right, as prescribed, and let's say you took the front of the zone here, you took the proper entry here, here you were +2, assuming no scales, right? Here you were -4, no question. There was a loss here, right? Here you were +2. So first of all, most people weren't looking for a continuation on the downside. I certainly wasn't. When we get a 50-point correction, Apple's earnings coming up, I'm not a genius, right? I can't figure out the direction of the move on a daily basis. I rarely call which way the market's going to go anyways. What I'm looking to do is to get my best shots, right? Take those shots and get in and out as best as I possibly can without losing any money. So for those, I spoke to several coaching clients today. Some of them did it well. Some of them didn't do it well but learned lessons from it. But in this scenario, right, you are flat on the day here. Not bad considering a zone got busted right in the middle. And it's unusual for this zone to get busted, and it was in the right time frame. In addition, if you look, right, we passed this 930 zone here. We weren't in any indication that we were in a trend day down. Certainly the open didn't indicate that we were in a trend day down. I'm all right taking this trade, and I will be happy to take a loss on this setup each and every time. It's part of trading. I'm not trying to avoid losing money. What I am doing is trying to execute my methodology, my trade rules to perfection. So moving on from this trade, if you'll notice, we got a beautiful rotation up for 6 points. If you look from the back of this zone, 1776 and a quarter, you add 6 points. That puts you 1782 and a quarter, and that sets you up for a beautiful rotation down for +2. At this point, I was at the doctor with my wife, and I did not take this trade. I didn't take this trade. Wasn't around to, excuse me, I did take this trade. I stand corrected. I was here still. I left at 9:30 in the morning, just after 9:30. This is the trade I got busted on and then took the zone below. I did not take this trade. Sure wish I'd been here to take it, but I did not. Looking further into the day, and if you look, this is first rotation up. So I had a couple clients that had issues right in here. Okay, so no one should have had an issue here. This is the second time into the zone. Again, my focus is on the first time. Why? Because this would have ended up in a loss. And also, if you look, time of day. So this crossed right into New York lunch. I'm pretty clear about New York lunch. New York lunch, while it provides good times to trade, is not ideal and can be more challenging. That being said, we were in the sweet spot, right? If I can catch a reversal somewhere here between 9:30 and 11 a.m., somewhere in this time zone, right? I know that the usual pattern is going to be something like open, push up, push down, and then swing back around, and then gives me an afternoon of one of these three choices. And this is exactly, by the way, what played out. This is the exact pattern that played out today. We'll show you when we come in. Now, a couple of things to pay attention to. I'm going to go through this quickly so that we can all go to bed and sleep well. Number one, time in the zone. It touched the zone for the first time right here. Some people started counting their timer here. Some people started counting it when it was actually in the zone. Either way, doesn't matter. If you executed in this zone, right? Let's say you skip this 5, 10, 15, 20. So you've completed 20 minutes in this zone. You have to start getting kind of itchy in a day where we keep pushing lows, right? We keep setting lower highs on 5-minute bars and lower lows, okay? So sometimes there are little clues. Sometimes it chops sideways, right? I'm actually all right when it chops sideways like this. If you get a series of bars that kind of sit like this, I'm all right with this. And I rarely go into such fine detail. But when I get a zone where each successive bar has a lower low and a lower high, okay, that is a nuance you have to keep up with until you see this pattern break, right? There's no easy way to do this. The stop is there for a purpose. Once you got to 20 minutes, my rule is 25 minutes. It just kind of seeped through. The only way you could have gotten out is if you counted this bar as your first 5-minute bar, in which case you were 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and you should have gotten out of town at the end of 25 with a minimal loss. I don't have a set way to fix this. Again, these rules are not set in stone. They're guidelines to help you. Worst case scenario, you lost 2 points behind the back of the zone. And does it suck to see where you got stopped, that it dropped down 2 more points and then went? Sure. Well, I can tell you, a lot of people had orders sitting right here at initial support. It missed by 3 ticks, right? This can be the difference between having a huge home run day and having nothing at all. That being said, you had an entrance at the high that if you left it scale, we ended up with a trend day down, whether we wanted one or not, right? And yes, there were zones that got busted, but this zone took its time to get busted. This one got busted pretty quickly. And all you can say when you look at your spreadsheet is this normal? Is this how we normally trade? Or does this happen on occasion and no big deal? And let me tell you the answer to that question. This should be no big deal. This stuff happens from time to time. Take it in stride, guys. Don't make it about any one trade, any one day, or any one week. The P&L will keep going as long as you keep executing correctly, is my general philosophy, and that has proven to be true. Now, I do want to show, to kind of move through this, I think I beat that to a drum at this point. I want to pull this in, and then I'm going to show NQ and wrap it up. I spoke in the morning about trap trades, and I laid it out. And I said in the morning, if we trade below Friday's low and then are able to recapture and trade above, right, and we got to move like this, that it could push us to the other end of the range, 1792. I also said that if we broke the lows, came down and tested, right, then that would set up a situation where we either trapped or went below. But that even if we broke the Globex lows, right, that if we recaptured Globex lows as we did right here, that could set up another trap trade and a push to the upside. In addition, I pointed out that we came up to Globex lows and we rejected the first time in. I tweeted this out. I even saw this. It was over an iPhone, for God's sake. And I tweeted out, I said, if we get over Globex lows, trap trade in place. Boom. Trap game on. Trap game on. Okay. They backside tested it right here. It held. They never backside tested this one. This one just went, right? And if you look, what did we do? Exactly what I said it would do. We would push to the other end of the range. Now, I really thought if we got to the other end of the range, 1792. But that being said, look at this move. This is from 1776 all the way up to 1788. Okay, and if you knew nothing else in this time frame right here, right, you knew that once we got above here, not to short this damn thing that can just crush you, right? This is a move from 1778. This is a 10-point move here, folks. Not getting crushed in a losing trade is just as important as getting on the right side of a winning trade. There are people that were certain we were going to get bone crushed that shorted here, 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 and here, and needed this just to get back even. You know that there's people listening to this recording tonight that are in that exact position. Finishing this up, last hour, I always am talking about don't take contra trades. Why don't I take contra trades? Right here. This is ugly. This is painful. People were getting busted zone after zone and not getting the rotations up. I have no way to let people know when this is going to happen other than I don't take contra trades the last hour. It works pretty good for me. Occasionally I'll see a setup, but most of the time, no contra trades. Life is happy. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can pass on to y'all here about this. Trap trades are important. Learn about them. If nothing else, to keep you from getting your ass kicked on a short squeeze or on a sell-off to the other end of the range. They often move to the opposite end of the range. Looking at NQ really quickly, by the way. Let me see if I can do this. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty here. Good, here we go. Okay, this is a 24-hour 800 tick chart, right? So I'm going to just draw this up really quickly. This is Globex lows right here. Okay, this is Globex highs. This is our open right about here. Okay, so first thing to notice, we can't get anywhere close to testing overnight highs. We just simply don't get it. I realize my artistry is off there, but we'll live with it, right? NQ has been leading every rally. When you see this thing putter out like this, as I did, and when it coincides with ES getting to a zone, if you look back at the chart, that's when we got to that 90-92 area, right? Mayday. This is a freaking red flag. Unless this thing busts out like this market was in trouble right here. I pointed it out. I tried to highlight it before the market. You got to know this stuff, guys. You got to watch a little bit of the other markets, right? Not because it's going to tell you where to take your trade in ES, but you got to have a clue as to what they're somewhat related. They're not directly correlated, but they're loosely correlated, right? Next clue, we broke to new lows right here on NQ. Anytime you're looking for a reversal trade and NQ is your leader and you're looking for a reversal trade over on ES, you've got a problem, okay? Next, it failed and came for a backside test, and it failed the backside test. And we then proceeded to obviously fall apart and run to the downside. Also, I want to point out on in terms of trades, what did I say where I would be taking trades? I said I was looking for a minimum of a 10-point rotation. This is roughly, if we look from the open, which was roughly right here, right? If I'm looking for a short, 35.30 was the low, so 35.40-ish is about where I'm looking to take a short side trade. We didn't take it. You'll notice I did not post that I got short on this side. And then the other thing I said was I was looking for at least a 30-point rotation lower before I took a long. 35.40 would bring me down to 35.10, and you'll see we got a little rotation right there. Not a huge one, but you got something. At least you got a scale off there, right? And then if we look at the end of the day, I said 60 points down, right, would be something that I would want to look at. 35.40 and change down to 34.80. This is a 60-point rotation. If you don't believe I said it, go look at the market preview. I called it out. And look at the time frame right here. I said between 9:30 and this 11:30 area is generally a time when the market will come back up and counter trade and squeeze shorts. If you were shorting anywhere in this, okay, you got your ass kicked, and all you had to do was look at the time of day and know that that was a low odds trade. Also look at the stretch. You got to take all these things in mind, and you need a system for incorporating all this into your thinking, or otherwise it's just too much information, and too many traders just look at one little piece and they lose the overall picture. Also, if you look at this rotation, measure the rotation up, guys. Measure it. Go look. How often does this? I'm not going to hand everything on a silver platter, right? How often does this rotation pay? Go think about it. Go figure it out. trying to see if there's anything else y'all need to know. This was obviously a short squeeze. And where did this trap trade set off, right? Numerous things can set off a trap trade, but this was the prior low, okay, that was set. At this point, right, here, right, we tried it. They tried to break back down. They closed back above. The deal was done right here, and they squeezed all the way up. This is a huge squeeze, right? If you shorted at 3,500 to 3,530, that's $600 a contract. That's a shitload of money to lose, right? Only to watch it roll over and come back down. And this stresses just one thing. If you are confident that the market is a short and you missed all of this, right? You don't want to take any longs. You know that the NASDAQ 100 is going to zero, okay? You don't have to chase. The market will come back to you. And the final piece I'll have on this is this right here is market structure. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go grab a technical analyst book or call me, and whenever I have openings for a coaching session, I'll be happy to step you through this. Okay? Breakdown. Retest, guys. Pretty simple stuff. Down it goes. Okay? There was structure here, and we got a pause out of that structure, but this had the stretch to accompany the retest, and we had larger structure, right? Look how much time this took versus how much time this took. You got to know your processes. You got to know what you're doing when you're trading this stuff. Money's too easy to lose in this market. You've got to have a process. Okay, so going back to ES, one last thing I want to point out, and this is on the daily, right? If you'll look here, we had two structures, right? So this is the first structure, this is the second structure. Okay, you'll notice that if you look closely, we got a pause there. We tested the backside, we paused there, and then we pushed up into this structure that provided resistance. On the radar, right, if we get above this 1790, the next area that has structure resistance is going to be this 1798 to 1802 area, right? Then you got this up here, okay, 1810. And then above that, we really all the way back to 1840, okay? So be able to picture, right, the market. Can you picture if it came all the way down here, right? Can you picture us trading all the way back up to 1800 and maybe even 1810? And if this is an AB, right, wherever we get the top of this run, we could end up with a CD move, okay? So I'm looking for this pattern to play out. I just don't know how it's going to play out, and I don't need to know how it's going to play out. The market will tell me where I'm going to get my inflection point. And if I can find a good entry, I might actually end up with an A, B, C, D swing trade if that works. Also, don't eliminate the opportunity that we can come all the way back up for a retest of this 1840. Markets retrace. If you don't believe me, go back and look. This could simply be just a nasty shakedown. Bull markets tend to have nasty pull downs and then runs back up. I've gone over what I wanted to do tonight. I'm tired. Have a good night, guys. I'm looking to kick some ass tomorrow. We'll talk soon.